I think if you asked any sort of a scientist, what makes humans so great, at least one of the things in probably the top 5 or, top 10 is going to be our ability to adapt and overcome challenges. And now I've been pushing a lot inside the live arena recently, and because of that, I've gotten myself all the way up into the top 3,700 players, currently with a win rate of 55%, 3,000 battles fought, which, it's okay. I was at the top 1,700 at one point. But essentially, through my adventures, an issue I've come into is builds with some of my champions. So I talked about not too long ago how I had redone the build for my Marichka, and I was getting far better use out of her. I think today is time to redo the build for my Taurus, and we'll go ahead and kind of show you how a late game player is going to build a Taurus, the things that you're looking for, all those sorts of things. And this is going to be kind of a PvP centric build for him, of course. It's also going to be a bit of a guide to the champion, so certainly feel free to stick around. I always say, even if you don't have the champion, it's still good to watch this content and consume this content, because first of all, it gets me money, so that's kind of a win. And second of all, you'll know how other people are building their Taurus for use in the live arena. So if you're trying to push live arena and you're going against Taurus, you're at least going to have some idea of how to combat him and how he's built. That being said, on my second monitor here, I of course have the Hell Hades optimizer that we're going to be using to facilitate this today. Let's go ahead, let's take a look at his kit real quick and see what we're getting into. So A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 40% chance of placing a decrease attack debuff for 2 turns, which is pretty strong. Each critical hit fills the turn meter of all allies by 5%, so he is a void champion, meaning that there's not really too many situations where this can't be critical, so you're essentially just getting a 10% turn meter fill, and this does apply if he counterattacks as well, so that's something to keep in mind. You'll notice all his damage as well is based off of HP, which is incredibly strong. Attacks one enemy on Hero's Intercession, places a stun debuff for 2 turns, one of the only champions in the game that can actually place a stun for 2 turns. There's a couple others, but it is certainly rare. Deals double damage to enemies whose attack is equal to or higher than this champion's attack, so if you're thinking about Sun Wukong, Georgid, any sort of champions that have higher attack than this guy, he's going to deal double damage essentially. And there is a passive effect that whenever an enemy attacks Marichka the Unbreakable, he's going to attack that enemy using this skill, which is so incredibly strong, and it's part of what makes that duo so good. Now finally, Constant Pressure. This is basically Seer but on steroids. AoE damage increases by 15% for each buff on allies. Then increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So Seer is going to have a damage increase based on the amount of buffs on your team, but she's going to strip them off, right? So he's essentially just a higher tier version of Seer, which I mean, he's a Void Legendary. It's what you'd expect. Heals this champion by 5% for every buff that had its duration increased. Restores decreased max HP equal to the amount of any surplus heal, which is pretty cool. Now you may be wondering, well, why has he got decreased max HP? Well, that is a fantastic question, and we'll get to that on the next passive. However, Fierce Battler passive is going to be when attacked, decreases the enemy's attack by 10%, up to 50%. I'm assuming that's supposed to say against champions? Up to 10. Oh, I see. Okay. They're just kind of hyphenating it there, which is a bit weird. Up to 50%, 25% against bosses. So I use this guy to great effect inside the Amius, the Lunar Archon, on the last rotation. I used Harima with him, so having that decrease enemy ignore defense as well as the decrease attack is so incredibly strong. Occurs once per skill. Attack reduction resets after each round. If you think about something like, for example, Amius, Hydra, Arena, Tag Team Arena, Classic Arena, all that sort of content is strictly just 1 round. So this attack reduction is going to stack up and be incredibly useful in those areas. Active effect places a fear debuff on all enemies from the Orcs faction. I see what you're doing there, Plarium. Ogren tribes, undead hordes, and demon spawn factions at the beginning of each round for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be resisted. This is so incredibly strong. So if you have Duchess, Warlord, Sifi, Rotos, all those sorts of champions, they're getting an irresistible fear on them at the start of the round, which is so incredibly strong. Of course, this has been kind of, intercepted, no pun intended, or degraded a little bit by the existence of something like Intercept, as well as Stone Skin and all those sorts of things, but there's still a lot of cases where you're going to get those Irresistible Fears out. The only thing to be aware of is that, of course, it can make him a bit of a polymorph magnet. Finally, Poise, all incoming damage from skills is reduced by 50% on an HP-based damage-dealing champion who has some of the strongest base HP in the game. When attacked, this champion's max HP will be decreased by 25% of the attack's initial damage before the damage reduction. So if you're getting 100,000 damage dealt to you, it's going to decrease his max HP by 25,000 damage, which, you know, it kind of is what it is. His A3, he has the ability to restore the decreased max HP, and then, of course, his compadre, Marichka, who is just failing to load for some reason. Marichka, what is going on? My champions aren't loading. She's going to fully restore any allies' decreased max HP. Essentially, the skills weren't loading up correctly there, but it is what it is. So the build that we have currently is letting us down a little bit, and the reason for that is we're incredibly slow. We're at 222 speed, 109,000 HP, that's fine. And then 256 on the crit damage, 105 on the crit rate. It's okay. He's definitely slower than I'd like to see, so he is not in Stone Skin either, which is a bit of an issue because he keeps getting crowd controlled by certain champions. So, for example, if we have something like a Gizmac, obviously it'd be nice to have him in there to, you know, survive through a little bit of the damage at the end of the day. Gizmac's not really CCing him though, so that's not a very good example. But for another example, Lady Mikage, 9 times out of 10, she's going to go faster than my 222 speed Taurus, and then she can go ahead and place a stun, right? And unless I happen to have a White Queen Ancora on the team, it's not going to work in live arena. I always said that, for example, in Classic Arena, using Taurus, Marichka, and Ancora is a very solid counter to something like an Armand's, because the Ancora is just going to eat the stuns from Armand's A2 off of the Taurus. But in Live Arena, Taurus doesn't even have anywhere close to my highest crit damage, I think is what it scales off of for Ancora. So essentially, she's going to slurp up all the debuffs from somebody else on my team, which is a shame. Yeah, highest crit damage, essentially. So we want to rebuild the Taurus a little bit. Now, let's go ahead. Enough about his kit. This guy is one of the best HP-based damage dealers in the entire game, by the way. So if you're watching this because you just pulled him, congratulations. I have him built inside Counterattack Masteries, and then I do come down to Helm Smasher as well. And then, of course, we do have Cycle of Violence, so that we have a chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill. Could also be cool to run him inside Blood Shield. Obviously, whenever he kills somebody, getting a shield equal to 15% of his max HP is going to be insane, considering he is a damage, or rather an HP-based damage dealer, right? So if you want to run him in, you know, that particular mastery, that's perfectly fine. We're going to go here. We're going to go to Taurus. I was kind of looking at the options that I'll have at my disposal. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be prioritizing damage mode for highest possible damage, and then we're going to be setting a Stone Skin set to at least 4 so that we can have him in Stone Skin. And then so we're also prioritizing all of the slots here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And then for speeds, I want to get him a little bit quicker, but if he's in Stone Skin now, I'm not too incredibly concerned about having him, you know, super fast kind of thing. So 230 is a good place to start, and then we can kind of bump it up there from there based on what we find for builds, of course. I'm going to take a drink of a beverage. Now, the downside to this, and I was testing to see what I could get for optimizations here earlier. Essentially, the downside is that he is going to lose a lot of damage. So we're looking anywhere between like 20 to 30% damage reduction, kind of as you can see here. We'll just go ahead and pause this and look at the builds. And the reason for that, essentially, is that he isn't going to be in Savage or Lethal or anything like that anymore. Essentially, I just don't have strong enough Stone Skin accessories from this particular faction. So if we go and take a look here, I don't have any sort of a crit damage amulet, which is a bit of a shame, right? So even if I go to filter by equipped, the only other amulet I have is on my Marichka. So already we can't make use of one of the accessory slots, which is annoying, to say the least. I will roll these up a little bit. We have a gear enhancement event coming tomorrow, so I'm not too excited to waste a bunch of my silver, but we'll go ahead and roll it up a bit here and just see if we get anything good. That could be a potential roll there. However, if we go back and just take a look, so like for example, these particular sets, he's like, you know, losing a lot of potential damage. So for example, of course, like Savage is going to ignore 25% of enemy defense. That being said, though, currently with his A2, whenever I hit into somebody, it's doing like 250k damage. So I'm okay losing a bit of ignore defense on that, like the 25%, right? And then the cool thing about the Hell Hades optimizer is when it's set to optimize for damage, essentially, it's also going to take into consideration those set bonuses. So if I have a set that is, you know, offering me, say, for example, 25% defense ignore, it's then going to consider, well, hey, can we put this set on and still reach the stats you want and then also have good damage output versus, you know, just ignoring, say, for example, Savage or Lethal and then putting him in Stone Skin instead, right? So it is going to consider those things, what has a higher potential damage output. That being said, though, as you can see, even some of the best builds that we're seeing here, we're still going to be losing about like 24% damage, and then we are going to be losing about 10% of our effective HP as well. So if you're unfamiliar, the EHP here is the effective HP. That's going to take things into consideration like HP, of course, defense, and also I believe resistances, and it's going to essentially just calculate like overall what your champion's HP is, because he has 109,000 HP. But no champion's HP is truly accurate inside this game, because in the damage calculations, you also have to take out any damage negation coming in from defenses, and then there's also affinity matchups in a lot of cases, and you know, all those sorts of good things that can play into it. Essentially, affinity doesn't necessarily reduce the damage taken, but affinity can introduce things like, for example, weak hits, strong hits, those sorts of things. And then I think in a positive affinity matchup, you just straight up do more damage as well. But I could be wrong on that. Ash made a very good video recently about affinities and all that sort of good stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at this build here. So we're keeping most of the Taurus gear, which is good. We're losing a little bit of HP, though, as to be expected. So we're losing about 12,000 HP. And then we're actually also going to be losing a little bit crit rate, which is fine. We're losing attack, which is fine. We're gaining defense, and we gain resistance. So I think overall, this is going to be pretty good. Now, we should be able to equip it in-game if I do this, I think. But I could be wrong. Let's try it again here. Equip in-game. Unfortunately, it does not work. Oh well, we can always just go ahead and do this manually. There's not many pieces that we're switching over anyways. So we're going to go to Stone Skin here. It's actually crazy how long Stone Skin has been in the game, hey? And I still don't have very good Stone Skin pieces. We're going to go ahead and go back down to Stone Skin once again. We're taking the helmet from Uko. And then we'll need a shield, which is level 12. Now, I very well may have essentially better Stone Skin gear soon, because as soon as the gear enhancement event starts tomorrow, I'm going to be rolling up a bunch of my Stone Skin gear. So, you know, if I drastically change the build or whatnot, I'll probably just post a infographic on YouTube after this particular video, and then you can kind of see an idea of what I had done there. Let's go ahead and go here. This is the Stone Skin ring that it wants us to take, which is pretty crazy. This isn't a very good ring by any means, as you can see. Let's go ahead and equip that. These are how the stats are looking now. I always click over here just by habit. So we got 94,000 HP, 231 on the speed, 103 and then 277 respectively on the crit rate and crit damage. So we did get a bit of extra crit damage there, I think. We're also going to go ahead, upgrade these pieces currently that are not at 16 and see what kind of rolls we can get on them. Resistance would be nice here. Crit damage is also very nice. I will certainly take that. And then this is a pretty meh ring, but we will go ahead and upgrade it. It would have been nice if we got, you know, another roll there. I also could try a rework. This could go well, or this could go terribly, because if I rework it and I don't get stats that I want, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot. But realistically, we do have HP on here that, you know, could roll. So we get HP main stat, that's good. HP, defense, isn't that pretty much the same as what we just did? That's pretty much the same damn ring that we just had. No, it's terrible. We're going to try and use some 6-star glyphs on this, though, because for the time being, at least, this is pretty much the best ring that I have, right? Obviously, inside the Stone Skin set, We'll go ahead, we'll ascend it and see if we get a good ascension on here as well. We get attack, which we're not really too worried about. He does maintain his other gear pieces here as well, so no need to change those. Now we are going to go ahead and ascend the weapon, and we're hoping for obviously HP. Defense is also nice, so even if we get a defense ascension, we'll go ahead and max that out. We will also try to glyph out the speed here, so we get a +4 on the speed, which is going to be acceptable. Can't really glyph anything else. We are going to go ahead and ascend the helmet, again, hoping for HP here. Defense, again, it's acceptable, we'll take it. We do have HP here that we can try to glyph out. We do get a max glyph on it, which is nice, an extra 5% HP. I certainly won't complain. And then we have a shield here that can be essentially just fully worked up, right? Because we don't have anything glyphed in it. We get an extra 1,000 HP off of that too, which is pretty cool. We're going to start rolling some extra HP in here. 1% is exactly what we want to see. Try and get some 5-star speed glyphs in here as well. Get a decent amount of speed coming out. We'll try one more time. We don't hit it, unfortunately. The rest of these pieces were already on him, so I don't think there's really a whole lot that we can do in terms of, there we go, max HP roll. I'll certainly take that. We had a 2% here on the HP, so we can get a little bit higher. I didn't know that. We got HP with HP Ascension here. With a speed that's already been glyphed out, we're not really interested in the attack on there, obviously. We can certainly glyph out the accuracy a little bit more as well to try and give him a better time to land those stuns from his A2. It is nice, obviously, having the irresistible fear coming in too, so we don't need to worry about building out accuracy for his fears, which is quite nice. And so that'll do it for that. And then finally, is there anything we can really do here? Not particularly. So everything is pretty much worked out the max that it can be on the accessories. Let's go ahead and take a look at his build. I'm doing this still, I don't know why. So we have 103,000 on the HP, so we brought it back up very close to a level that we had before, which was nice. 3,300 on the defense, that is a bit of a gain. We have 236 on the speed, so that's over 10 speed gained, which is very, very successful for a rebuild attempt. 107 and then 283 respectively. What's going to be nice is if I get him, you know, into some sort of a higher blessing. So as soon as I get like a 4-star awakening on this dude, his power is going to go through the roof because he's going to get 38% extra crit damage, and then he's going to get 1,000 extra HP as well, right? So obviously if I could get him into a 6-star, that would be pretty nice as well. We'd start running him in Polymorph or something like that. Now Heaven Cast isn't necessarily the best buff for him. Lightning Cage could be very strong. Another good option would be Temporal Chains, Ward of the Fallen. Life Harvest could be very good because obviously Life Harvest gives you a turn meter boost if you have at least a 3-star awakening. Polymorph would be strong if he had enough accuracy, which I don't really think he does. And then Crackling Roots could be pretty strong as well for essentially just doing damage to other champions inside Stone Skin. Let's go ahead and take a look though. Yeah, only 114 accuracy. So what's crazy about this is with the accuracy, you can see 80 of it, you probably can't really see that because of my head though, can you? No. I'll just read it out to you instead of moving myself because I'm cool like that. You can see, so 80 of it comes from affinity bonuses, so my Great Hall, and then only 34 is coming from artifacts. So we're really not prioritizing any sort of resistance at all on this guy, which, you know, it is what it is. That being said, we're about 20 minutes in, so I think it's now finally time that I take him into the arena and kind of show you some gameplay with Taurus and show you what he's all about. So this is a team that I really like to run. We'll see how he's doing for damage inside the Stone Skin set now, obviously, as well. I'll tell you what, gentlemen and ladies, there's like 1% of you that watch my videos that are ladies, so welcome if you're one of them, but my Stone Skin gear is under so much stress on my account because I'm mainly focused on, like, you know, PvP now, right? So especially like live arena and those sorts of things because I quite enjoy the content, farming extra gear from it, legendary books. I made an entire video just, you know, bouncing on the baloney pole about PvP and why you should be doing it. So I'm not really going to talk about it too much here, but essentially PvP is fun, right? I'm doing a lot of PvP. So because of that, a lot of times you do want to have your champions built inside Stone Skin so you can avoid crowd control and so you can survive. Importantly, right? So really the only damage dealing champion that's not inside Stone Skin on my account would be Leorius, but I don't ever pick him, and Sun Wukong. And the only reason Sun Wukong is not in Stone Skin is because he can revive himself, right? That's the only reason, because I don't have Necrit on my team, for example, like some of the all-time great protectors like Necrit, Ursuga, Duchess, those sorts of champions I just simply don't have, so it makes it a bit tougher for me. That being said, though, it's put my Stone Skin under such stress. I have a He-Man that I bought with my hard-earned money that I'm now going to be trying to build out. And when I build He-Man, I obviously want to have him inside Stone Skin as well, right? Because it's an extra buff that he's going to scale off of. It helps him survive, all those sorts of good things. So it's so crucial to have good Stone Skin on your account. And I kind of talked about this inside the arena video as well. But make sure that you're farming Hydra as much as you can. Make sure that you're trying to get your weekly 1.2 billion or whatever it is there for the Hydra chests, which are guaranteed gear drops, even if, you know, you don't win the Hydra Clash, which is incredibly strong, because not everybody's going to be in a clan that can win Hydra Clash. And we're kind of going against some interesting teams here. You can really see just how strong this is, though, especially now having the Taurus in the Stone Skin. So he doesn't need to worry about, you know, any sort of debuffs coming his way or any sort of nasty things like that. We do, of course, have the Marichka inside Stone Skin as well, but she's significantly faster, so sometimes she can actually get a turn and it'll wear off, which is a bit of a shame. Even on this team alone, I think everybody's inside Stone Skin now. So Ancora is in Stone Skin, I know that. Marichka's in Stone Skin. UDK is in Stone Skin. And now Taurus is in Stone Skin. So again, it's such high demand on your account. I would say it's quite a bottleneck for my particular account. Apart from, like, I'm just trying to think, but like Merciless, I don't really think I have a good gear set that I could use. So Merciless is also a significant bottleneck. Because I haven't been on top of farming the City of Centranos, unfortunately, and I kind of kicked myself over that. And then, apart from that, I would say Supersonic is also a little bit of a shortcoming as well. So, there's certainly some gear sets that are a bit tougher to get as well, but, you know, I'm not really using Protection anywhere, and I don't really have an interest in using Protection anywhere because, you know, really the only place that I'd get use out of it is going to be something like Chimera. And I don't really run champions that it needs to be in Protection inside Chimera, so I'm lucky enough to have one of the Monster Hunter collaborations, which has, I forgot his name, but it has the protected buffs against any sort of a boss, which just makes it, you know, easy mode essentially for Chimera, which is pretty cool, but I know everybody's not going to be blessed like that, so Protection is a very strong set to be farming too from, obviously, Hydra, right? And then on top of that, a lot of it comes down to having good accessories because, you know, gear will only take you so far. Accessories will help a lot more, especially with Stone Skin, for example. So, like, you know, just as an example, if we had a good amulet for my Taurus, if we had a crit damage amulet, it is entirely possible that we might also have him inside Savage and Stone Skin or something like that, right? So, just something to consider. A bunch of talking, essentially, while I showcase the champion at the end here, but I hope either way that this guide has been useful. I think we'll probably go ahead and call it quits after this battle here, however long it might take. We have some old school champions in here, so like a Lydia and a Cardinal. Cardinal you don't see too much in Arena anymore, that's for sure. There we go, the ally attack comes in. You can see Taurus still doing very, very good damage, 379,000. Obviously, nobody else on the team is even close. That being said, as always, thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like for the YouTube algorithm, a comment as well if you're super into it. I also have a Discord that I'm trying to grow, so feel free to hop in there and share your champion builds, questions, tips, tricks. You know, just share whatever you're proud of, your champion polls, whatever it might be. I'd love to see it. I'll see you guys next time.